So let me start. And I'm not sure if the streaming is already running. Yes, it is. Wonderful. So welcome everybody in the room, but thanks to the miracles of technology that actually took off massively during the COVID. Welcome everybody online. And thank you for putting the, I don't like spaghetti, it makes me weird. In the workshop, in the event source for Europe. And I'm really happy to have not just the distinguished guests here and many of you online, which I believe is giving us much wider reach than the people who would be able and willing to travel to Brussels for a limited period of time. And I think I'm also very appreciating this helps us to be way more inclusive on such a super important and indeed grounded topic, because soils are essential for our own survival. Soils are essential for pretty much everything, the entire life. I would dare to say even the aquatic one. And I'm really happy to say that after what I know is 4.5 years of work, we have achieved a stage where we have a trialogue agreement on the soil monitoring law. And I think this is a really important step to have first time ever common platform for at least knowing what's going on with the soil and really trying to start working with all the relevant stakeholders to improve the state of the soil, because at the moment the situation is bad and the whole quality and the soils are dying, to put it very simple and straightforward, as one has to say. And it's time we actually know better what's going on and see how we can help those who take care of the soil in addressing these issues. So I will stop talking here and I will hand over to Cristina and Carlos to take you through the rest, and also allow me to thank you to all the organizations involved, and especially to all the scientists who are here providing us with the really interesting scientific information and background to the issue, but also to the practitioners who will tell us the feedback from reality. So looking forward to the discussion. Over to you, Cristina and Carlos.
Thank you very much for this nice introduction, and thank you for hosting this meeting, Mr. Hojsik, today, and to bring us together on this important topic. So today, we indeed brought different experts together on soils, I would like to first give a short introduction also on Europe's vision on the EU Soil Monitoring and Resilience Directive. We think it's a very essential topic. I also put this quote here, which I thought was really very on point from the book of Georges Monbiot on how to feed the world without devouring the planet. And indeed, so the soil is so complex, and it's the basis of our well-being, of our being overall, and certainly also for food production. And so to understand it well, it's very critical. I won't go into detail here because the scientists we have invited here will do that further, but to highlight some key points, it's our most biodiverse system. So it hosts an incredible amount of biodiversity, which is partly yet to be further uncovered. The interactions are extremely complex. And it's really the basis of overall healthy ecosystems. And so, as said, also of food production, 95% of food production depends on healthy soils. And it's really the basis also for a long-term perspective for farmers. And then to highlight another essential point is, I think, the link also with water, both water management, but water quality as well. So the link with soils is clear, and we need this in framework of climate change even more. We need healthy soils to store our water, to filter our water. And if we, it's just an essential prerequisite for a sustainable future. And then to say shortly something on soil pollution, as I'm involved in the think tank on soil pollution in the Soils for Europe project. So this is one of the major threats to soil health. And for example, it's a threat then to biodiversity, on which it has a very big impact on ecosystem health. And then linked to that, of course, it threatens healthy food production and food production in the long term, also water availability and health then of citizens as well. And we see that many farmers across Europe are, for example, working very ambitiously to reducing pesticides, to restoring soil health, but they need, of course, the right framework to do this. And so we are very happy that there was finally an historic agreement, a first agreement on soils in the EU. We and other organizations, also, for example, water managers, of course, very much regret it doesn't go beyond monitoring. Because of course, the actions to really restore soil health are urgently needed. And while much more information and knowledge is needed, we already know very well what also the action should be. So we hope that in addition to provisions that will be in the soil monitoring and resilience law, that it will also trigger and foster the environment for the needed action and the supportive framework to truly restore our soils. And yeah, I would like to give now the word soon to Carlos, but maybe to first introduce the speakers we will first have after Carlos. So the order of speakers is a bit linked to different aspects of the soil monitoring and resilience law. So first, after Carlos, we will have the presentation of Raja Morokan, who is affiliated with the Institute of Soil Research at Boca University in Vienna. And he will talk about the synthesis work he's coordinating in framework of the European Joint Programme on Soil, EJP Soil. So this will cover aspects surrounding definitions, soil health indicators, and also harmonization of assessment and monitoring systems. And then after that, we will continue with the presentation of Paul Baudelier, who is a senior scientist at the Netherlands Institute of Ecology in Wageningen. So his focus is in microbial ecology, and his main field of interest is on functional microbial ecology, and also to relate the diversity of microbial communities to the functions they carry out. And from this perspective, he's also involved in multiple projects. So there in his presentation, we will make the link from indicators more to functions. And then afterwards, we will have a presentation of Marcel van der Heijden, who is affiliated with Agroscope in Switzerland and also with the University of Zurich. And his focus is mainly on agroecology and also on plant microbiome interactions. So there we will look, for example, at how pesticide pollution also can influence the soil microbiome and what possible management options can be. And I would like to give now the word to Carlos for a further introduction of the speakers and also an overall introduction.
Thank you. So we are here today to tell you a story. So first, Christine presented you a few of our colleagues that are researchers. They will tackle different aspects of the current law. And then what we are going to do is to transition this law to more the impacts of this law and to its application. For that, we have Professor, sorry for my Portuguese, she's also Portuguese, Professor Teresa Pinto Correa, which is, she's a professor in Évora, and she will tell you a story about the economic and social implications of this law. We'll then go to Joël, that is a farmer that is going to bring the perspective of someone that is in the field, that comes from Belgium, a different, completely different context, but similar implications. And then we will move ahead even further for something that comes from the Mission Soil, that is the living labs and the lighthouses. This is a major initiative from the European Commission that we have Wim, that represents Enol, coming with their perspective to you. And finally, because this law, and you all have been participating in discussions that you have countries and member states saying, well, we don't have the capacity to do X and Y and Z. We brought you an example of a member state that started almost from scratch because it didn't have a system at all implemented, had a puzzle of things, and now is giving concrete steps to achieve what is requested by this law. So for the ones that know me, okay? I'm a really optimistic person, completely naive, and I would love for this law to be something else, okay? That is not. That said, because I'm really optimistic, I'm in love with this law right now, okay? So, because we have it, and it's a concrete step in the right direction. Independently, if we agree on the details or not, it is. And because this law allows us to have scale in monitoring at the level that we never had before. We had the Commission doing that for the member states for a while, but not the member states directly contributing to that. And we will allow for that to happen. We'll allow for independent research to be done. Right now, the only independent research is clustered around the Commission's work. The Commission is the only one that provides this level of assessment at large scale. Having that at the member states will also be of benefit for everyone, not only for the researchers doing the research, but also for farmers, for land managers, because most of the land in Europe is not farmland, it's forests, it's other places that also deserve attention. And it will allow for, to the best of our capacity, a standardization of procedures that will allow for comparisons to improve the type of information that we give to land managers and the type of advisory services that we can give to them. Again, on the scope of what can we do, this was an assessment done across European member states with the participation of around 200 scientists. And what we asked them was, what are the limiting factors to execute this law? And you can see that in different countries, the factors that are the main factor stopping this law to move ahead are different, but they all reside on one thing. And one thing that this law comes to some extent solve: lack of coordination between institutions within the country and between the country and the European Commission. This law at least allows for that dialogue to start and to be put in practice. We identify things like not having the infrastructure to monitor at scale. This may be more difficult to overcome, but with the latitude that the law currently allows, I would say that any country can achieve it. Yeah? And we also have issues related to the lack of lab standards or monitoring standards, but these are where the scientists that we brought here with us today can help with the multiple projects that are currently being funded either by member states or by the Commission. I took this quote because it's almost 100 years old. Yeah, so a nation that destroys its soil destroys itself. I would like to have a quote here from a less important person like me, but still I'm an aficionado of this, because when a continent, and this is the key thing, we are almost an entire continent, decides to protect its soils, it's protecting also its future and its citizens, because we all depend on this. We saw this with the issues with Russia and Ukraine, but we also see this directly in our food structure and on the mechanisms that we use to transport food around Europe and beyond Europe. And we, I think, require this type of structure or this type of legislation to move us forward. Yeah? In the continuation of this story, I'll pass the word to Raja that will tell us a bit about monitoring and soil health. Yeah, you have to connect this one.
Thank you. Thank you, Carlos, for the introduction. And I'm Rajashekharan Murugan. Today I'm representing European Joint Program Soil to present the key policy relevant indicators on soil health indicators and soil monitoring. So Carlos and Christine briefly mentioned why soil is important and why the monitoring, what are the important things that are being monitored. And here I would like to start with the question why soil health monitoring is relevant now. Soils are a finite and non-renewable resource and are continuously evolving due to soil degradation that is caused by several threats, including natural and human-induced pressures. And this evolution of soil is making it necessary for monitoring, setting up the monitoring programs in order to define reference states of soil quality and soil health, and also monitor changes over time and space, and also to assess the implication of the impact of policy measures. And the big question here is, where do we stand on soil health indicators, soil data, and soil monitoring in Europe? And these major questions were raised in the European Joint Program Soil, which is EGP Soil in short, which has a partners over 1,200 scientists from 24 member states, and which was working with the goal of climate smart agricultural management to address societal challenges on agricultural production, climate change, and also on sustainable environment. And the EGP Soil has 4 knowledge pillars, which also includes a harmonization of the knowledge, and has 44 research projects that covers 5 different impact areas. And that includes, in the orange circle, you can see the projects that are covering soil health assessment and monitoring of various soil health indicators. And thus it says the results that are produced in EGP Soil are very relevant to diverse set of stakeholder groups. And at the beginning, so we started with the reviewing the proposal of soil monitoring law, and we have identified 4 major knowledge needs for soil monitoring law, which is harmonize the definitions and provide harmonized data and monitoring scheme. And third one is provide set of indicators and thresholds. And fourth one is mapping and reporting tools. In this presentation, I will cover the first 3 knowledge needs. So the need number 1 is to harmonize definitions on soil health and soil health indicators. The proposal suggested by EGP Soil is that soil quality is the potential capability of a soil in a given land use and soil type, whereas soil health is its actual capacity to provide goods and services such as food security, clean water, and human health, and so on. And on the right-hand side, you can see the European-wide agreement on the use of harmonized terminologies on wide range of soil health indicators, which was found out from our European-wide survey. And the most important thing for the selection of soil indicators are the indicators are responsive. Their responsiveness to management and also to changes in environment. And another one is they must also correlate with the soil functions and processes. This is 2 important things. And also we provide, EGP Soil provides an overview of existing soil data, national soil data, and also monitoring programs. To start with, the first, we took a stock take of in 24 European countries on different soil health indicators, and that showed that data availability on soil health indicators over 40 indicators that vary in their terminologies and also in their laboratory methods among member states. And the second one, we provide an overview of soil monitoring systems as a whole, which also differs in their protocol, sampling protocols, and their different soil parameters measured for monitoring purposes. And with a few exceptions, there's no willingness to change. Therefore, it's highlighting the need for harmonization methods, which are essential for comparing the data among European monitoring and also the existing national monitoring systems. To address this specific complex issue, together with the JRC, EGP Soil has launched a double sampling exercise with the Lucas 2020 soil sampling scheme to check the impact of sampling protocols and analytical methods in 17 European countries. and also to support the development of transfer functions, which assist the comparison of data comparison. And thus, this is a work in progress. And based on the initial results, our recommendation is that to support harmonization and validation between LUCA's scheme and also National Soil Monitoring Scheme for enhanced data comparison and to support evidence-based decision-making. So we have a dedicated policy brief that was published on this to address this knowledge need. And this is a small example of how double sampling scheme works, comparing Italian national soil monitoring protocols with LUCA's monitoring, where we found that this is a very new result, which we just published last week. And this result shows also the differences in different soil indicators and land use among these two different monitoring schemes, shows the need for having transfer functions to support data comparison. And the third, what do we know about soil indicators that are used in European countries? And to address this question, so we reviewed soil indicators that are being put in use for soil monitoring purposes in 20 member states. And we found that wide range of 68 indicators that are being used for characterizing soil quality, and with soil carbon, texture, and bulk density being the major indicators. But in contrast, soil biodiversity indicators are the least ones that are used in national monitoring programs. Soils are alive, and there are several recent literature, including the one which is showed here from Banerjee and Marcel van der Heijden, who is also here with us today, show the critical importance of soil biodiversity, not only for plant health and food security, but also for human health and for the whole environmental health. So to dig deeper in this knowledge gap, so we provided a comparison of what is happening at the EU and global level, and also proposed changes in the soil indicators, which you can see in the middle of the table, changes proposed by the soil indicators from EGP soil, where you can see the green color indicates the agreement on main soil indicators, whereas the orange and red color indicates suggested changes and adaptations. And to address this knowledge gap, we also provided a set of biological indicators to include in the soil monitoring law, which was completely missing, by carefully taking into account of functional indicators and also structural indicators of biological organisms. At the same time, we also had the cost and methodological simplicity in mind by deriving this set of biological indicators. And we also published a specific policy brief on this in January 2025. And in addition to that, we also tested this set of biological indicators across pedoclimatic conditions. Across pedoclimatic conditions, based on the results, it is showed that use of single biological indicators may lead to a wrong or misleading conclusion. Therefore, a set of indicators, here we say tier 1 indicators, should be used simultaneously to support evidence-based decision-making. So with the soil monitoring law is being adapted, it will require countries to improve, enhance, and establish a new soil monitoring programs. But the key messages for policy decisions here are the monitoring system should clearly choose on a specific sampling design and sampling protocol and a set of parameters in order to calculate soil health indicators. And EGP Soil has worked and provided guidance through comprehensive reviews and recommendations across 3 major monitoring issues, which are the number one is on monitoring strategies, the comparison between national and Lucas monitoring strategies, showing differences in sampling sites, which leads to over or underestimation of a certain land use or soil types, which is directly has a direct consequence not only on the individual results, but also as a whole soil health assessments. And second, on sampling protocols and analytical methods, every country has its own system, and with a low possibility to change its long-established monitoring systems. Therefore, the suggested way forward here is to establish harmonization methods such as transfer functions, which is exemplified by our ongoing double sampling exercise. And finally, on soil health indicators to be measured, we also compared the proposed indicators of soil monitoring law with the literature and provided recommendations, specifically made main changes on biological indicators to get included. And finally, we'd like to say that set of strong framework for soil monitoring is highly needed at this moment in Europe. And with that, I would also like to mention here that we have an EGP Soil knowledge sharing platform where all the deliverables and policy briefs are deposited for stakeholders. And also we have an interactive PDF where you can identify specific knowledge gaps and the outputs that are coming from EGP Soil. And I would like to thank the EGP Soil team and the entire consortium who are working on different soil indicators for the last 5 years. And with that, I thank you all for kind attention.
We'll now give the floor to Paul.
Okay. Good afternoon, and thank you very much. It's an honor for me to speak here. It's not something I do every day. I represent the Netherlands Institute of Ecology, but also a large group of people working on a project. So this will be an example of a project where we're actually going to make the next step. And my point will be the soil monitoring is actually crucial to be able to make this next step. And this next step is really essential. And I will explain that to you in a minute. So the project is a Soil Pros project, and I will explain what this project is about. But basically, it's about soil biodiversity to make production systems more sustainable. Well, soil is a living entity. It was already emphasized, but you cannot emphasize it enough. And Marcel will know this picture very well. They had just published last year an incredibly nice study where they actually showed that 59% of all biodiversity on Earth is actually in soil. And many of those you cannot even see. So it is really crucial. And actually, it brings it down to this very simple figure here. It's basically the circle of life. So the soil life is closing this circle of life. And at the moment, you're going to change the input, or at the moment, you're going to speed up the processes in the soil, what we do in agriculture, things get out of balance. And then you need to intervene. And that's actually the next step. And for that, you really need soil monitoring. So when we want to restore systems, when we want to change them, when we want to bring them back or make them functioning more optimally, we have to intervene and we have to steer. And that's the step we want to take in this project, Soil Pros project. So it is towards steering. And actually, the interesting fact is, this project is financed by our technological national financing organization. So they see a lot of application for farmers in this project. So where do we want to go from the classical yield-focused steering by physical and chemical ways? We want to go to the interaction between biology, chemics, and physics, because the soil life you cannot leave out of the picture. And in that, the triangle will be the way we're going to look at how soil biodiversity sort of relates to all these functions and how you can optimize them. But very crucial is, and that's down to the steering and the intervention part, is you have to know the management practices. And I will come back to that in a minute. So what this project does, basically in 3 years, we have been looking at 965 sites in the Netherlands. The first year we took arable sites, the next year we took grassland sites, and 2023 we took a mix of both sites. But the crucial point is, of course, we covered the soil types in the Netherlands. We also covered the representative agricultural and management types. But the crucial point is that to sort of also circumvent the problem that we did not take all the samples at the same time, we always take them in pairs. So intense, very intense, and natural soils from the same soil texture, taken at the same time point. So you can really compare them at this moment. And we had a team going into the field, and then we had these relatively small plots, but we took in every field, we took 3 of these plots, and then we measure soil biology, soil physics, soil chemistry, and we also measure a number of functions, like in this case, also greenhouse gas emissions. And this team went all over the Netherlands, well, they did a fantastic job. And basically, we look at earthworms, arthropods, potworms, we look at greenhouse gas emissions, other soil functions, we look at physics, chemistry. Microbes, of course, play a very important role. So we measure whatever we could, as standardized as possible in harmonization with what is used in general. But then this management intensity, because when you want to steer something, when you want to intervene, you also have to know where you want to go. So a reference, a benchmark is really important. So that's also why we set up this project. So we went from natural grasslands, semi-natural to conventional. And for arable fields, we used extensive versus intensive fields. But the crucial thing is we asked these farmers all the details about the history of the fields and about the management. And in that way, you can sort of calculate, or you can set up a management intensity index. I'll come back to that later. Actually, right now, because in the study which was actually published in Science last week, our institute compared 59 conventional and organic farms. And what we do, we create a multifunctionality index from the functions that we measure. You can see that on the y-axis, so that's the MF score. And when you compare organic and conventional on the basis of multifunctionality, there is no difference. But what you see is when you plot it against the management intensity score, then you can see that they both go down in terms of multifunctionality, which you could see as soil health, when the management intensity increases. So this reference, this benchmark, in this case, exemplified by this management intensity score, which you have to really carefully calculate by asking the farmers, is really crucial. So the management intensity here really lowers soil functioning. So as well for organic farms, as well as conventional farms, it would make sense to manipulate the intensity level of management to go back to the situation you want. But then the prediction and intervention, and then artificial intelligence and machine learnings come across as quite important and crucial. What we see here, that's sort of the scheme of our project, the Soil Pros project. Work package 1, that's what we did in these 3 years. We collect data, biodiversity data, a lot of functional data. And then work package 2, that's the crucial thing which is ongoing now, the Technical University of Twente. So they are really technical, computational people. They have no ecological experience whatsoever. And they are devising also new methods and new software and new approaches based on artificial intelligence and machine learning to actually connect all this data to each other and to compare on the basis of management intensity. And then you get really dynamic changes which you can model and predict. At least that's the point. But we cannot wait for the people from Enschede, and they cannot wait until we have all the data complete. This is just an example. This picture shows you soil organic matter and the microbial diversity, and you can already see patterns there. But what we do in the meantime, we actually do already interventions, all kinds of interventions which you can think of. We are already executing in sort of greenhouse settings, but we also measure our standard protocol already in existing trials in the Netherlands in this case. So that's the way how we make a next step, that we can use machine learning, but the monitoring data to get to steering and interventions. And how should you see that? Basically, these three organizations, or well, the last one is not an organization, but the first one represents a huge retailing company worldwide. And they have in common with Google and the personalized medicine is that they collect data to intervene and steer their customers or their patients. And that's actually what we need to do as well. So we need to make customer cards, or let's call it a medical record for our soils, and then we can use the approaches these companies use to steer customers to steer soils. That's basically the idea. And actually, there are a lot of indicators, but there are also already quite a number of tools available which can help to actually select which kind of monitoring tools, which kind of biota in your specific situation you are important to take into account. But another important factor is co-creation and multidisciplinarity. In this project SoilPros, there are really a lot of organizations, 2 ministries, 2 provinces, agricultural organizations, really big agro companies. So there are a lot of companies involved, and they put a lot of money in the project because they support this view that we have to go to tools that really make us, give us the opportunity to steer and to intervene. The last one actually is, of course, you need a lot of people, but in the Netherlands, public awareness, of course, when you want to sell to the people that soil monitoring is really important, you also have to tell it in a right way. And we have this really large program, which is funded by our national lottery. And they made a movie, which has been shown in a lot of cinemas in the Netherlands. More than 40,000 people went there. And there's also an international version. And this movie really had an enormous reach, which basically paves the way for getting more public awareness also for soil monitoring. And we have a National Center for Soil Ecology where we bring people together to also talk about all these issues of standardization and so forth and so forth. So I would say the take-in messages is, well, getting soil healthy, you will need to steer and intervene. Artificial and machine learning approaches, they will be crucial, but they need data. That's the point. And context dependency, that's really important. So you have to have local references. So you really need to take the local context into account. And well, data is monitoring. So monitoring is a prerequisite for all of the above. So when we want to make the next step, when we want to intervene to change the soils, then we need to monitor. Well, I hope the message came across, and I want to thank you for your attention and all our members from our great SoilPros team. Thank you.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon. It's for me also a really big honor to be here and to talk about the work we are doing. I'm a representative from Switzerland, but I'm also Dutch, so both entities, so to say, and I will talk about soil health, pesticides, and soil ecological engineering. I think it's very important to first start what already Carlos said before. We have to produce enough food for everyone. And in the past, this has been reached by fertilizer use, pesticide use, and breeding. But I think now, and that's the reason why we're also sitting here, I think it's more and more important to also think about the importance of soil health and soil microbiomes, because we realize that some very intensive agricultural practices are not very good for the environment and sometimes also not good for the health of humans. So, and that's why I think we should put in soil microbiomes and soil health in this picture. And so just to remind myself, to remind you, to show a beautiful soil profile from Switzerland. Actually, if you look very carefully in the back, you see the mountains, the Alps. But it's, of course, we talk about soil, about the dark matter, which is for many people dirt and not so interesting. But I think also it has already been said, soil is alive and kicking. So what you see here, under a hectare of fertile agricultural land, you find up to 15 tons of biomass of living organisms. That's comparable to 18 cows. These are Swiss cows, not European cows, but it shows how abundant life is below ground, and we can steer that a bit to make soils more sustainable and healthy. So this picture was also just shown by Paul. So here we summarize the literature, and I think this number is important. If you think about biodiversity, about species richness, we estimated that over 50% of all biodiversity, of all organisms on this planet, they are living in the soil, are connected to the soil. It's very important. There are, of course, also pathogens included there, not only beneficial ones, also bad ones, but also good ones, viruses, protozoa, etc. So I think it's very, very much alive. I think that's an important message. Also, was shown before, we showed then in a first review paper, there's a lot not known, but the soil microbiome and soils have a big impact on the health, not only of plants, but also the health of humans. We breathe air, we breathe soil particles, and then we also breathe soil microbes, and they can affect our health. Or cows eat grass and they eat a lot of soil. So the soil microbiome is really very important for the health of many, many factors. So now I would like to show you a few research examples, what we are doing. So first is about soil microbiome engineering. So changing the microbiome, actively manipulating the soil. So the question we posed, is it possible to enhance plant yield through inoculation with beneficial microbes? So we added mycorrhizal fungi to the soil, which is a fungus which lives in association with plant roots. This forms a symbiosis. And that's the results you see here. We've performed field inoculation trials on over 100 fields now. So we do it with machines, with tractors. So I actually brought a small sample. You see here, you will think there are granules with fertilizers in there, but they're not fertilizers in there. There are mycorrhizal fungi in there. So instead of adding fertilizers, we add beneficial microbes. And that's what you see on this picture, the machine. You see a sowing machine of a farmer, and in the first box, there are the seeds. And in the second box, and that's what actually my colleagues are doing right now, today at the moment, we add then also granules with these mycorrhizal fungi. And then, based on research we have done so far, we found in some fields up to 40% higher maize yield. So, and that's a real normal agricultural field managed by farmers in the way they do it. So this is no greenhouse study with sterilized soil, and then you add a microbe and you see fantastic results. This is the real world. But what we also observed, and I think you can go into details if you like to see the paper by Steffi Lutz et al., where we present all the details. We saw in some fields we get 40% higher yield, but also in some fields we found even yield decreases. And so we went investigating what is now explaining this yield increase. And then we observed in fields where soil health is very bad, very poor, there we had a big beneficial effect of adding these beneficial microbes. And also often in this field, the productivity was relatively bad because the fields were not managed so well. So I think this is a very nice message because we can provide farmers with also a tool to say, okay, in your field, you can improve something, you can improve soil health by adding these beneficial microbes. And I think that's really a way forward. So that's why we call it soil microbiome engineering or soil ecological engineering. Then the next part, this is actually work from the European Union. We were very lucky to work with, together with people from the Joint Research Center in ISPRA. We had a collaboration with them. So you already heard the Lucas soil monitoring is very important. Please go on to fund it also, I think, for people who are here. So we were investigating then the microbiomes and soil biodiversity across the whole European Union. Actually, in the 2020 sampling years, I will show results from 2018, 2022, also Switzerland, which is now the small white or dark map, a gap in the middle of Europe, is also now included. And then using these data, we did something. We measured a soil health index, and this soil health index contains a number of variables which describe the status of the soil. So soil organic carbon is really very important, not only for carbon sequestration, but also for soil quality. And what we observed, and I think this is also very important for policymakers, if the soil health is increasing, the primary productivity goes up. And we assessed the primary productivity with satellite data, so we could compare this for woodland, for grassland, for croplands. So that's an important message, general message. If the soil is healthy, if the quality is very high, primary productivity goes up. And then you think, that's the solution. Sorry, I have to disappoint you. I'm a scientist. So there are also, of course, other factors which are very important for primary productivity. For instance, in Switzerland, we did a similar thing. We also measured soil health, and there was no relationship at all with primary productivity when we looked to arable fields. And this was simply because if soil health is good, but if there are no nutrients for the plants, they will not grow. So I think there are different factors. I think that's important to be precise there. But in general, it shows soil quality is really very important. Okay, yes, then another thing which was also done in Lucas and is continued to be done across the whole Europe, there's a monitoring of the presence of plant protection products, of pesticides in the soil. So here you see some results. We measured this in woodland, in grassland, and in cropland, arable land, and not surprisingly, in the arable lands where the farmers apply pesticides, we also find most pesticides. That's what you see here, up to 22 different pesticides. So across the whole of Europe. But then the next step, and I think that's very interesting, we then link these data with data on the microbiome, on the soil biodiversity. That's what you see here. It's a bit a complicated graph. Maybe you look at the right side. We try then to see what is the importance of these pesticides in influencing the community composition of soil microbes and soil biodiversity. And then something for me was really special. We, of course, saw that soil properties, that's in brown, are very important in influencing soil biodiversity. But next, and that was for me really a big surprise, pesticides have a big impact on soil biodiversity. They have a big impact on the niche of many different microbes. So bacteria, actually, they like it. There is a positive, a green correlation. So the bacteria often like disturbed conditions, and pesticides represent also a disturbance. But for instance, fungi, and especially also these mycorrhizal fungi, which we added, they are suppressed. So you see that these pesticides have a big impact on the microbial communities in the soil. I think, and that's an important message. It's not published yet, so you see very new results here, but we are in the process of submitting this. Okay, so I'm coming to the end, the conclusions. So I hope that I've shown to you and convinced you that soil ecological engineering has potential. So field inoculation with beneficial microbes can promote plant yield, and it can also be applied by farmers. I think that's what people are working on now. But it's also very important to realize it's not only the active addition of microbes, but also by management, you can change a lot. So if you do more crop rotation, you get a better soil structure. If you do reduced tillage, you can improve your soil structure and soil quality. Compost application or cover cropping, these are all tools which are known, which are very beneficial. And I think here policymakers can also steer this. Just it's done in Switzerland, for instance. Farmers have to do crop rotation and then they get additional payments from the government. And I think that's really very good, because we know crop rotation is important for soil quality. The problem for farmers, of course, with some crops, you earn a lot of money, but other crops, you don't earn a lot of money. So they often want to grow particular crops. And so then you get reduced crop rotation. So that's important to mention. And the last thing is, I think we have shown that pesticides are very widespread in agricultural soils, and also our results indicate that they have a major impact on soil microbial diversity and the niche of a wide range of microbes. And I would like to thank you for your attention, and many people, of course, for collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcel. So we'll now continue with our story. Teresa, you have to switch the lights on the button for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Taking this conversation from the components of the law to the application of this law and the impact.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here and to make this presentation today. I will shift a bit, but I will build a bit on what has been said, because I will talk about management, and management is done by people which are under social context. So I will talk about a particular context, which is Southern European, and my presentation should come, I don't know. And I would like to thank, of course, my team. So this is the work. What I'm presenting here is a kind of summary of a lot of projects we have done in farmers in our region. So it's not only my work, but it's also a work of a team in my research unit. And I will continue. I'm going to talk about the agroforestry systems in Southern Europe, and particularly in Portugal, which occupy 4 million hectares in Portugal and Spain, but they are very important all over Europe. And yeah, now we are there. So this is the system I'm going to talk about. Oh. Yeah. So this is the system I'm talking about. This is the agroforestry with the silvopastoral, in fact, agro-silvopastoral systems with trees, cork and oak trees, and then you have grazing and cultures, annual crops underneath. And this is, as I was mentioning, is a system which is rather widespread in Southern Europe. You see the green patch is the area where we have it in Portugal and Spain, which goes up to 4 million hectares. And it's precisely in the areas which you have here, which are, I don't know how I point, well, which are the red area. It's the area which is most prone to climate change in Europe. And at the same time, we have in the Iberian Peninsula relatively low farming density so far. So it's a type of system we would like to preserve, because it can cope with this climate change while supporting a lot of ecosystem services, which are extremely important. But at the same time, we have this very particular context where we have a Mediterranean dry climate, and very strong variations in the climate along the different years. That is very difficult to renovate soil or to build up soil. So it's very different from the soil profiles we have seen from Holland or from Belgium. We really have very poor soils. And a lot of the soils in our region in southern Portugal, they are acid soils, so more than 80% are acid. They have a strong problem of manganese toxicity, and they have very low nutrient content and very poor organic matter. So it's very easy to degrade these soils. They are on beforehand, they are poor, but when management, which has been in a tendency to be more intense, with more intensification, so the intensification management is a key issue, and more simplified leads to further degradation of the soil. And what we see then is that this system, which has such a big importance in terms of ecosystem service provisioning, it's under decay. And decay is a kind of hidden decay because it's by loss of the trees and by no tree renewal. And this happens because the soils are constantly plowed to keep the shrub down. And this is connected with agricultural policies and villageability with the area. And there's a tendency also to increase intensity of grazing. So we are losing about 5,000 hectares of this system per year. And we have farmers which know about it. So that's the point of my presentation is about these farmers. We have been working with them for a long time. We do a lot of field work with them. We do a lot of surveys. We do questionnaires. So we know them very well. This is not the result of one project. This is the result of different projects. They are family farms, big farms. So they have a relatively high education in relation to to average farmer in Portugal or in Southern Europe. They are well connected. They have capital, but they have very difficult access to advisory service. There's no regular quality checked advisory service, so that the knowledge they build on is the knowledge they can acquire by themselves or with some the knowledge they have been having from the family, which is normally not enough for the innovation which is needed. So they are aware that they should change the system. They are aware that the system is under decay. They could make something for soil regeneration and for tree renewal, and they have the technical solutions. But they are pressed by the policies which exist now, which is to maintain subsidies from the Pillar 1, which are supported on production, plus their farmer self-concept, which is very much about being productive. So the innovation in management, changing the paradigm, is very difficult to follow. So they continue this specialization and simplification. They continue, although they know they are decaying the system and that will compromise the sustainability of the system in the future. And even the power of example is not enough. What I'm showing there is an aerial photograph of on the left side, you have the green plot. It's one of these large farms where the farmer has been following conservation agriculture for more than 20 years now, together with the support of someone from our university, a specialist from our university. And on the right side, you have the same type of soil conditions, the same type of farmer. They are family with each other, but the one on the right, he doesn't want to follow that conservation agriculture because he believes he can do as he always has done. So even the example is not enough. And logically, what we would think is that the monetary benefits which are derived from the changing a paradigm and protecting soil and the values they have about soil, if they have the knowledge, will lead to a change in the business model. But we don't see it. And that's a big question mark why we don't see it. We have created a Montado Living Lab. I think we are going to hear more about living labs. This is certified by ANOL and it's centered on soil. And that was a discussion we had with the farmers. And we decided that we should create this focused on identifying what can be done for soil regeneration, because it's really a key problem in this system. And right now, so just finished, we had a survey to these farmers who participate in the Living Lab. So on beforehand, they are informed farmers and farmers which are interested in integrating knowledge in their system. And we have used this, the value system they have to understand what is ongoing with their management. And so we have inquired about their knowledge about soils, their care about soils, and the agency. So what they are doing to change if they have the knowledge and the care. And what are the results? Contrary to what is described in literature, so this is knowledge from social sciences, they have care about soil, so they care very much about their property. They have the knowledge because they know about soil limitations, and they know the picture I'm showing there is this specialist which is supporting a lot of farmers, a colleague of mine, in changing their practice. They have the knowledge, or they know where to get it. but they have no data, so they don't know about their soils, and they have no agency. They are not changing their practices. So it's different from what could be expected. And the explanatory reasons they are giving us is because they do not have the supporting tools. So they do not have policies which are aimed at really changing soils. They are very dependent on the Pillar 1 scheme, so there's no result-based schemes which could help them in improving the soil. And they have a lack of capital to do what they would need to do, which is also, to the knowledge we have, it's also related with risk aversion, which is something they generally have in this region. It's a more traditional type of farming, so they are not so innovative. But it means that if there was more quality and general accessible acquis, so a system which is covering all the farmers, that will be fundamental to transfer more knowledge. But it's not only the key question. There's also a strong need for a change in the policy tools. So they are targeting management and pressing the farmers to make the change that they know has to happen. And maybe a change also in the rules we have and the policies we have, so that will be more. We have already a few, but it's just really a pilot. So more based on results and performance, so that they could have this incentive to change their management. And that's all from my story. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm also very happy or glad to speak in front of you. It's a first timer for me. I did not have a lot of time to prepare something. My main job is being a team leader at the fire department here in Flanders. On the side, I have a farm of about 65 acres and a little daughter, being a single parent of a little daughter of 10 months old. So it can be a little busy sometimes. I took over my family farm about 6 years ago. Before it was run by a contractor. First 2 years, I took over the conventional methods of plowing. I noticed a lot of wildlife on the fields, pheasants, rabbits, deer, when there were living roots in the soil, well, when there were plants growing. After plowing the soil, I did not see any more animals for about 6 months. I thought this couldn't be the way nature intended, and we were using a system that was not in sync with it. I would like to talk a little bit about the wins and obstacles in a transition from a conventional to a more durable way of farming. I started farming with no external idea of knowledge how to do it, how it all worked, or how to run a farm. I was forced to explore on my own, which actually is an incredible benefit. I have a critical and perfectionistic character, which loves thinking about the box, so that helped. I started looking into other systems, and rather fast I came across the method of no-till farming. There were not a lot of colleagues which were using these methods, and a few moments in my brief career as a farmer, they said, I lost it. What is he doing right now? The first time was when I stopped plowing and started with no-till. After experimenting with it, I soon left the plow on the side, and the benefits were showing and after holding to my thought. Even more, the plow was sold to take away the temptation of using it when difficult conditions were occurring. Following this, I looked into my crop rotation and the balance between them. I stopped growing sugar beets, saw the downsides of harvesting them in wet conditions and drilling the next crop under bad conditions. I changed them for canola, which is much more beneficial for the soil and it's far less inputs. That was the second time they said I was losing it. Onions were changed for peas, no extra nitrogen needed. Flax was changed for annual flower meadows with my own blend, beneficial for soil life. Cover crops were the next thing on my item list. I learned about the benefits of complex mixtures and on its turn, experimented with it, living roots in the soil for as long as possible, different types of plants.
I want to say there is other slides.
Ah.
Going further there.
Yeah, there are a few pictures from out of the field. Different plant types and their benefits and downsides, so on, so on. You can see here some plants being direct drilled, and you can see a root of a plant which generates its own nitrogen from the air. Next was the delivered amount of inputs on my farm. Inputs like bare work, inputs as fertilizers, spraying solutions, pesticides, so on, so on. I further reduced the tillage by buying a direct drill to sow crops with 4 different tanks, so I can plant 4, 5, 6, 7 crops at the same time based on application maps. This picture on the left, you can see 2 worms reproducing themselves. It's a very hard picture to come by. I'll have to state the first steps I took in the transition were fairly easy to perform on my own. For the next steps, the more specialized steps, I only had 1, 2, or 3 harvests a year, so the learning curve was too flat. I needed a steeper learning curve. I needed some help. I needed some guidance. Usually guidance is obtained from vendors of pesticides, of fertilizers, of seeds. Obviously, they speak for their own wallet. I found guidance with Regenacter, a French company, which is located in the Walloon region. They get paid for advice, and advice only. They don't get paid for implements, just for advice and their knowledge. In terms of law and rules given by the government, I do believe it is necessary to push farmers a little bit out of their comfort zone, because they are educated from father to son, and they will not change their habits obtained and passed on by generation to generation. You see here some canola flowers. I do not personally like labels as bio, as conventional, as nature inclusive, or agroecology. I do actually believe in movement, or a way of thinking, a flow of knowledge whereon we can evolve. We can evolve to a more hybrid type of agriculture where all the inputs are gathered. I do believe we have to re-educate farmers about their work. They get influenced so much by vendors and big companies whose main goal is to make a profit. It is hard, it's a hard truth, but the knowledge of farmers or farms lie not with the farmers themselves, but with the advisors of the other companies. Pesticides are used as a standard measure. Also, when it is not needed, we can compare it by using antibiotics continuously by the start of winter. I don't do that. I only take antibiotics when I am sick and when I need some help to get through the disease. This week, actually, I obtained the advice of the vendors to spray against disease in wheat. It was very urgent. There is no disease at the moment. It's not the weather is really beneficial for our wallets and our plants and our soil life if we want to use it. I have another few pictures of mixtures of crops, cover crops, a direct drill which can sow multiple species together. Some bees on the left in the canola fields, cutting down the cover crops, intercropping, something I'm looking into right now. And on the right side, you can see what we are all doing it for. It's their future. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Also, from my side, of course, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a real pleasure to be here and to be able to represent ENOL, the European Network of Living Labs, which I am sharing. So ENOL, and this is not just self-promotion, this is really relevant in the context of the presentation. We're the international association promoting the establishment and the implementation of living labs. We have been doing so since 2006, and despite our name, European Network of Living Labs, we're actually very global. So we're active in all 5 continents, 38 countries, and we have been certifying, because that's our USP. We are the network of certified living labs, more than 500 living labs since our start, and today we are still with around 170 active members. We offer our members a path to grow through this certification. So candidate living labs go through a thorough assessment, and once accepted, they have access to our services, which include capacity building programs, a variety of working groups, including relevant ones in this context, like water, energy, and rural affairs. And we're quite active in EU-funded projects where we include our members to strengthen them. Living labs are widely recognized these days. We have common working groups with European Commission services. The topic is mentioned many times, and I see the letters on the slide are a bit blurry, but we are mentioned many times in Horizon Europe funding calls. We are acknowledged as a typology of research infrastructure and technology infrastructure, so really as an experimentation environment to promote and sustain innovation. We are part of one of the flagships of the, until now, new European Innovation Agenda, waiting for the new one under the new commissioner. And of course, we have a very deep collaboration in the context of several missions, including the soil, but also the cancer mission and the climate neutral cities and regions mission. The most important question I have not answered yet: what are living labs? You see a very broad definition, which is our official ENOL definition. I think the key characteristics are the ones that you see on the left side, which is co-creation, orchestration between the quadruple helix actors. So in every living lab, we have public authorities, businesses, knowledge institutes, and the end user, which in many cases is an individual citizen, which we actively engage in the activities and etc. So in the soil living lab, we have used this general definition to come down to a very customized definition on living labs, which respects the core criteria and which will be used throughout the mission, soil, and they will be used in 100 living labs, because the soil mission has as a goal to create and support 100 mission labs throughout Europe, and 45 have so far been selected and are being funded. And you see them here on the slide, 25 who have been selected in 2024, and the last cohort, the most recent one, of 20 living labs. So soil, which is a project framework actually being coordinated by ENOL, is one of the large projects under the mission. And we have the task, not only an ambition, but a task to set up basically a one-stop shop to support living labs, to coordinate them, to enlarge them and promote the network of living labs. So it's a framework contract which is being implemented by 3 executive projects. And the first one, Soil Startup, is being implemented right now, and more will follow in the next years. So in these projects, we will be developing further the concepts and the methodological support. I need to speed up. We have seen a few experimentations here. So I think the added value of Living Labs and the fact that we are working on insisting so much on this core methodology is that we try to bring in some harmonization within these experimentation projects, which really makes it possible to compare results. We are working on the monitoring as is the core of the future directive, and we have managing a few transversal aspects. So soil is offering a number of services, which you can see here on the slides, but I think the most important one here in this context is the monitoring and evaluation action, where actually we have been creating a framework. Sorry, I'm going fast, but I am told to speed up a bit. A framework which was developed based on the Living Lab methodology by Enel. The criteria as outlined in the Mission Soil Implementation Plan and the taxonomy created by the PrepSoil project. These are all sister projects under the mission. And then we've also collected insights from a pilot group within the Soil Startup project. So these elements together have helped us to shape a monitoring framework tailored to the goals of the mission, which is this one. And here you see 6 dimensions, which includes the strategy and the operations, the openness towards partnerships and other partners, and the ownership of results, the interaction with end users, and also, of course, the impacts and monitoring. Because we are in these Living Labs, we are measuring the outcomes and the impact on the soil health, and so the effectiveness of the ongoing evaluations. So, in conclusion, what is the added value in particular of the soil projects? We are actually, before the directive is already there, we are testing the soil health indicators and monitoring the results on site. We provide high quality data, which is crucial, as we've heard from the previous speakers. And we are piloting sustainable practice for broader EU use. The added value of Living Labs, of course, is that we are accelerating innovation, allowing, if successful, to scale up in a faster way. So we start small through Living Labs, but then the results should be and will be European-wide. So we turn the directive into practical place-based of actions, and we already offer feedback to allow regulatory learning. So the Living Labs today already, but in particular in the future when the 100 Living Labs will be up and running, will be able to provide a continuous feedback loop to improve the directive even more in the future. And for the soil, we act as a guide and coordinator, which ensures alignment with the directive and supporting the Living Labs in collecting data. So, as said at the start, today we have 45 Living Labs selected and funded, and they are starting their practices. So we're only having partial results today, which tell us that the understanding of the soil indicators is going well. 58% of the Living Labs demonstrate that they have a solid understanding of the soil indicators, and 72% of them have already drafted or are in the process of drafting a monitoring and evaluation approach. And if you look on the right side, I hope you can read it, but there's a number of indicators, and these tell us which indicators in majority are being monitored by the Living Labs of 45, which are being implemented today, and 55 more to follow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wim. And before we go to André, I would just to André Trindade is representing here the Director General for Agriculture and Rural Resources of Portugal, not because it's my country, but because also, but because, more importantly, because the Ministry of Agriculture in this particular case is leading the Portuguese Soil Partnership, and has shown not that usual openness to collaborate with researchers and practitioners. And for the last year, for example, has held meetings with all of researchers across Portugal that work in soil. And I think because of that has been successful in trying to move forward their implementation. André.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I will try to present the institutional standpoint from the central government of Portugal, and try to show you we don't hide behind the desk, and we go to the field and talk to the people, and meet with the researchers and all the community. Okay, so with the challenge of the to transpose the soil monitoring law to the Portuguese law, we have some problems, like the establishing. I'm going to talk about maps mainly and territory. So I've selected these 2 points: establishing the soil units and the determination of the sampling points. So the partnership, the Portuguese Soil Partnership began in 2015, uniting the public administration organisms and the farmers' organizations, associations, and the research and development and education, as well as 3 members from the business sector. We are now 51 members, and last year we increased almost 10 new partners in this partnership. So we are growing. The dynamics with this thematic of the soil is gaining some importance, and the stakeholders are getting aware of this problem. So the partnership has some matters that as an action within, but what I'm going to talk about is the National Soil Observatory project that took place the last 2 years. So it just finishes. There's some work in progress as well, but I'm going to talk about it. So the main role and activities of the Portuguese Soil Observatory are to create a monitoring system, official, and integrate the European system, and follow the guidelines of the soil monitoring law. Is also to develop a shared data infrastructure to integrate all the national data, the European reporting obligations, and follow the availability of data, namely the official monitoring that will take place, all the data from all the national research projects, and the soil sampling from the users, from the farmers, namely. We know we have a system that they need to report some soil indicators to fertilize, to know how to fertilize the fields, and they give us to the administration some data, but it's all scattered between different organizations, and is dispersed, and it's in different formats. So we need to harmonize this information. And lastly, we need to have a better communication and raise the awareness within all the stakeholders. So we began to go to the field, and we took 100 samples from survey sites. They were randomly chosen from and represented land uses that the Lucas surveyed. The more underrepresented, we chose them. So we have this 100 samples, and this was a test to see if we were able to get to all the territory. How about the logistics, the time consumed in this task, and the manpower, and all the things that are involved in this, the labs, to take the samples from from Lisbon, from the center of Portugal, to the labs that are dispersed in the territory. And all this experience made us have some knowledge of it's going to come. So some outputs. We have now a platform, a dashboard with maps. We have an ACIS communication and coordination hub with discussion forums, documents that are uploaded to everyone, and even a public agenda with events and news. We made a sample collection and field data manual with protocols that we used, mainly the Lucas ones, and we are disseminating within we think the future sample collectors. And we have 5 training sessions for advisors, for technical advisors. And this was very important. It was very crowded, all the sessions, and we were very satisfied to go to show them these new techniques. So we participated in the test runs to address the sample scenarios, and we had a small shock knowing that we'll need between 2,800 samples and 5,000 samples. But we wanted to check with different combinations of descriptors and variabilities and territorial arrangements to see if we could have more optimal dispersion of the samples. So we had funding for another project after the observatory, and we had the ML soil. It's a Science for Policy project. It's a co-participatory modeling of soil districts using machine learning. So we are using the knowledge we gathered with the first exercise, and we expanded the possibilities to check the different combinations with different numbers of soil units and different numbers of samples we needed. So we had the optimum value that was 2,036 samples for 14 different soil districts, soil units. So we have to arrange the monitoring scheme to this reality. We think this exercise it's going to need a deeper knowledge about it, and we'll need to continue making these tests. Okay, 2 minutes. Okay, I'm going to finish. So we, as Carlos said, we started last year with more partners in the partnership, with more members, and we start to gather knowledge and gather people to discuss. So in October we reunited like 80 soil experts with 63 research projects that we didn't communicate between us, and this event was, I think, a landmark to this project. So we have a catalog of projects, and I think this event united us to bring forward this intention to co-create the new monitoring strategy. So this February we gathered again with the aim to get contributions from the scientific community, and to make a roadmap with actions and a more cohesive outlined strategy to time to come. So we think we need to identify all the potential entities involved, the need to certify the laboratories involved. We need a sample strategy regarding the design, including the minimum parameters defined, the different proposals of the soil management law, monitoring law, and it's crucial to identify the threats and the management practice. This aspect, considering the design of the soil units, in addition to the climate and to the soil types. So it's a new opportunity to use these soil units for other priorities other than reporting. So we need also to decentralize the sampling effort to disseminate through all the country to get the costs lower and to involve more people. So this experience needed to be reliable, strategically representative of the national territory, harmonized with monitoring systems of the other member states, and be feasible. This is very important, be feasible. So we started to co-create this, cooperating to knowledge share, and I think it's essential. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andre. So I hope that we were able to tell you a beautiful story about soils. I'm fully aware this is not your only topic on your tables, but if you have any particular questions, any questions to any of the people here, the floor is yours. You have a question? Yeah. Yeah.
So it's very nice listening how we're all active in our respective fields with the soil health, and the soil monitoring law comes back many times on the presentations. So my question is just very simple, maybe too basic. What are the next steps in this process, and how can each of us, and well, I mean, I hope each of us in our respective domains, but I speak, let's say, on behalf of a portion of the citizens. I'm volunteering for a movement called Save Soil. And we have volunteers across most countries in Europe, and we are able to mobilize people. So how can we contribute to make this concrete and real in the coming period?
So maybe one of my colleagues can also add to this, but taking just from the experience in Portugal as an example, so Portugal does not have a monitoring system, but we already collect 20,000 samples per year funded by the CAP. These samples are just somewhere that are not used because they cannot be used because of different methods, different labs, different everything. So I would imagine that mobilizing citizens by just mobilizing citizens would not be the next step, but having them in a structured way as a layer within this monitoring framework, I think it would be very helpful. And I guess this is the example that is being followed more or less in Portugal, where they have these different, André didn't show this, but they have thought about having these different tiers of an institutional tier that is, let's say, their monitoring system. And then there's the research projects that also contribute to this in a different way. Then you have the farmers and all the citizens that can also contribute. But maybe, André, you can also speak a bit to that.
Okay, we have, like Carlos said, a tiered scheme, and as I presented, we have all these samples from the farmers that need to participate in this effort. So we need to involve them and to try to inspire some trust, giving us the data. We have some restrictions about the location and some information about the owner of the data, but we can work with that, with an anonymization of the data. So these different tiers of data can give us different scopes of analysis towards the monitoring, and we can have a network with different aspects of the monitoring system, relying on the different data sources. So I don't know if Carlos want to add something.
Yeah, maybe to Martin first.
Just to add from slightly different perspective, this is valid in terms of the implementation of the soil monitoring law on the ground, and it's actually really interesting to hear from you that there is a lot of monitoring going on. Just it's as we say in Slovak, it's the left hand doesn't know what the right hand does.
Yeah.
So the incoherence is massive, and I'm really hoping, and this is where indeed in the implementation, all the stakeholders from public through academia to farmers to businesses, actually would be great if you try to help and influence the administrations to collaborate between themselves, but also be open to very clearly to collaboration with the authorities. I know from the Slovak experience that it was not soil sampling, it was water and air sampling, but you had data which one state institution was refusing to share with the other state institution. And I was recommending to use the access to information law to get between. So, you know, as a public, you could get it, but one institution didn't give it to the other one. But this is requiring that the soil monitoring law is passed, and it's not yet passed. be very clear, what we need is approval in the council and approval in the commission of the outcome of the trialogues. What I think is really needed to have it really solidly fixed is if you could reach out to your ministries of environment, to your ministries of agriculture, with asking them to support the deal from the trialogues, telling them how this is going to be beneficial, because actually this law can help, create the right framework for unifying the already existing monitorings, and at the end of the day, making it cheaper for everybody. Second, also reaching out to the members of the European Parliament, because it will have to pass through a vote in first the Environmental Committee and then, of course, in the plenary, where your support and kind of a nudging of the members will be, I would say, welcome. So I think it would be great to have this form of support and voices from across Europe. Thank you.
Just to build on what you just said, Martin, there's a first step, if you want, that is to, at least in the current structure of the law, assuming that the law passes, that is engaging with your member state, because this law will have a member state by member state application. So this would imply that. But as Martin said, there's a lot of work to be done before, because we still don't have proper legislation being passed. And as André may also tell you, member states will only react upon the approval of this law. If this law is not passed, they may react in the same or in a similar way, but it will not be structured. It will be the same patchwork that we have today. I don't know if other people have questions.
You want to ask a question?
Go for it. No?
I will, but there will still be time. Yes. But yes, maybe to also just quickly react to your question. Yeah, I think organizations like Safe Soil, they have also a very important role to play on what is said here. So to really inform also their policymakers about the importance of soils, and that it's something that citizens are rightfully worried about, because soils have been, yes, as you also probably know, often been neglected over the last years in comparison, for example, to water, where there's more attention because it's just more visible. So I think that your role can also be in really make people passionate about the topic and about the enormous complexity of soil life, and really, yeah, educate also on its importance. And then I had maybe a question linked to some elements that Yuri was talking about, because it's something we hear from many farmers we speak to, actually from very different EU countries and from different, both from organic or conventional or regenerative and farmers performing conservation practices, that they really miss this expert advice, like this independent expert advice on how to help them implement different measures and applying different techniques. And I was wondering if some of the speakers in the panel had also some ideas or comments on this, on how they see this and how it should and could change in the future, and how hopefully also the soil monitoring law can maybe help.
Okay, I think it's not only a reply to what you said, but about the importance of the law. This question of the farmers and the advisory services, I think, is really crucial, because what we see in our type of farmers, the ones I described, they are the more informed, the ones who are highestly informed, and still they lack it's not just about being informed. They need to discuss with someone to see how the technical solution they apply in their farm evolves or gives results or not, and what they should do. So they don't have this, they don't have the one to discuss with. And this is extremely limiting to what they can do. So I would say that it's crucial. It's lacking in many countries, but lacking really fundamentally, because the advisory services which existed before or some decades ago, they've been replaced by administrative services, which are helping them and fulfill requirements for getting the subsidies, but not helping them technically. So this is, I think, a problem which is only known in some countries, which are typically the periphery or southern and eastern countries of Europe, as far as I know, but it's really fundamental. And what happens when you when you have this type of law, as when you have a lot of projects or initiatives related with law, with soil, is that soil is coming up, step by step is coming up in the conscience of the advisors and of the farmers. And so it's already there, but it needs that this system is set up. And maybe the legislation will press the system or press the member states or the governments to act in the sense of creating this advisory service in a way that it reaches all the farmers. I would say this is very, very central and very crucial in many countries, in a way which is not understood by those countries where have the advisory services. Yeah, thank you.
From my end of the perspective, I see a few measures that can help us farmers. First of all, right now, subsidies are being given on the amount of acres you work. It contracts the vision from farms or farmers who want to make a change. I think it is more beneficial to reward good practices than just being owner of a big farm. Second of all, putting experts next to the policymakers. And three, from my end, I lack the vision of a clear path where we are going through. In the little area of Belgium, it is divided in two even smaller parts with another set of laws and rules on our little piece that's Belgium. What I lack is a vision from where we want to be in 2030, 40 or 50. And I think without a clear goal, it is impossible to walk a path towards our goal. We need a goal in a few decades. And by then we can make sets of rules going to that goal. Right now, I only see measures that change every other year without a clear vision behind it.
Thank you very much. Since no one else has any other questions, we will close. But before we close, I'll just take on the second message of Jori, putting together policymakers and experts or researchers. This was done during this law. There was a really active participation of the research community, not only from different researchers and different institutes, but making a real effort of providing independent evaluations of the options that were being made. Independently of the end result, that was also a policy result, and I understand that, but the process of getting to that result was filled with advice from multiple researchers across Europe. I myself led an effort with more than 200 researchers supporting different aspects of the law, but I was not the only one, and these 200 researchers were not the only ones contributing to that. Many national researchers, many national panels were also involved, and I do think that thinking about next steps, this is a source of resources that the Parliament could use, because now they are all active. They all have your contacts. You all have their contacts, or you have the contacts of these networks that you can support yourselves in creating better legislation for the future. This is not the only legislation on soils that you have on top of your tables. Yeah? So I would maybe close with that and wish you all a good day. Marcel?
I think we have still time, so that's why I thought maybe also turn around the question. So more, what does the policy want from us researchers? What should we do? I think there are various aspects. So for me, it's very interesting to hear that. It's maybe a naive question, but still.
Thank you. Oh, this is good. And where to start? The one thing, and it's at this very moment, it's basically the simplistic. We need your help to get the soil monitoring law passed through the Parliament, kind of get the compromise passed through Parliament as well as the Council. And then it depends on whether we get it or we don't get it. Now, if we get it, then I believe the crucial thing will be really to try to maintain the network and maintain the exchanges on the national level, so you can help with the implementation. Yeah? We should discuss and keep open if there is some joint action on a European level that might be helpful. This is something which remains to be seen. And that might kind of help to facilitate the implementation of the monitoring law. It's hard for me to tell now, but this is something that we need to do one step at a time. And so to say, be in a dialogue, helping to make sure that this is something which is easier for the member states to turn into practice. Second, I believe it's going to be important to realize, to kind of then see how can you operate in the conjunction of the common agriculture policy discussions that are coming up and the soil protection, because exactly as you said, it's pretty crazy if farmers have to face changes in the policy every year. Usually the national politicians, or in the case of Belgium, the different regional politicians on top of the national politicians, love to blame Brussels for it, although honestly, we haven't really changed anything since the establishing of the CAP for this MFF. So this is something which is going to be equally important to look and see on how to work with the different stakeholders to ensure that the kind of CAP is compatible with the needed protection of the soil and economic survival, competitiveness of the farmers, and all the other aspects ultimately. And this is, I think, going to be the other step, and then helping to make sure that those things work together, put it in a simple way. So it's about more dialogue, but also really work on the ground.
That's just one thing. The dialogue that Martin is referring to, if you allow me, Martin, is a dialogue filled with data. We did a lot of, Raja, for example, was showing you many policy documents that were built specifically for that, to answer specific questions that were raised during the multiple discussions that were, that every one of you were having. And we wanted to support that effort with concrete data for you not to have to imagine how it looks like, but to have concrete information on how it looks like. Then on that, make me know, Teresa.
Yeah, I would like to make a comment or a question regarding this question of the CAP and the details in the policy construction, which make it very difficult, which are conflicting with this question of soil. And we have, for instance, I've mentioned it very fast, and I don't know if it was clear enough, but for instance, in Portugal, the eligibility criteria for areas to receive the first bill of payments obliges the farmers to keep them clean from shrubs. So in these extensive systems, which are very, in principle, they can be done without mobilizing the soil. They are mobilizing hard, because they want to keep them clean, because the most important is to receive the subsidy in the biggest area possible. So this very small detail, which is not at all related with soil, it's related with the eligibility, makes it almost impossible to have farmers take care of their soil, because they are pressed to have the biggest area possible. And I'm wondering whether this type of questions, we have been raising them again and again within the national context, and it stays because there's a lot of pressures, whether this could come up in a discussion level where we really see the conflicts, because it's the interest also of Europe, I would say, to have a set of policies which are integrated with each other. And it's very frustrating because we cannot come further with this type of solving these conflicts.
I completely understand. And yes, please come up and share the examples. The more concrete, the more tangible, the better. Because we try to build the policies on data, but the stories are equally important. Trust me. It's like you can have a really thick study with lots of data, but a heartwarming story. That's the reality of how we people function. It's not just politics, everything works that way. And indeed, this example is really good one, because it's a dilemma on, well, if we leave the soil aside, it's better for the soil health. But the farmer is under a lot of pressure financially. It's not
Exactly.
not to blame them, but to get as much as possible in terms of the payments that they can. And the moment they say, okay, so this plot of yours will not get any first pillar subsidies if you don't do something there, they're pretty much forced. The counter argument would be, so you want to pay farmers for doing nothing? Although sometimes doing nothing is the better thing and kind of harming. So having these examples is something which can, I believe, help in a big way, because these are sometimes the surprising things that are much easier to address than trying to argue complex systems. And sometimes it's these types of obstacles that are really what kind of almost makes people then crazy. It's like, so you want me to protect the soil, but you want to actually, you force me to basically till it more, which is not good for the soil. But if I don't do that, I don't get the money. It's kind of, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand does. It's way too often happening on so many policy levels.
Thank you very much. Now we do have to leave the room.
Actually not. The good news is there is no meeting after it. So we would be really happy if you still take a drink because there was no opportunity during or before. So really, you don't need to rush out. And I would also like to really thank Mr. Hojsik for hosting this meeting and for Monica Marqueta from his office to help with all the organization, also to my colleague Marina, who has helped a lot today, and of course to all the speakers who did an effort to be here, because it's nice to be really on common ground when to have all the speakers on common ground, and also to all the participants online. Of course, there were many following, so it's very nice. There was so much interest in this topic, and I think what I remember is that our soils are alive and kicking, or at least they should be, and we should keep it like that and restore them wherever needed, because we can only build a future on living healthy soils. And I give the word to Carlos if you want.
No, let's go for drinks then. We can also speak better with our throats bitter wet, and I hope that you can stay a bit more. It will be very helpful for us also to understand a bit your positions and your ideas or your necessities, and we are here for that also. Thank you very much.